Speaking of Star Trek and points of divergence between me and a large portion of the fan base, Matt L says, have you started watching Lower Deck Season 3? If so, what do you think? I'm going to start it later, but I really liked Season 1 and 2. How do you feel Lower Decks compared to TAS? Would you prefer a more serious animated show? I prefer TAS. I don't think that the original Star Trek, the animated series, is a masterpiece by any means. I don't know if there are any great episodes. There are a couple of very good episodes, like Yesteryear, the Spock episode written by DC Fontana, I think is probably the best episode of the original Star Trek animated series. And there's a couple other ones too that are pretty good, but I don't think any of them are like, must-see masterpieces. Like, you haven't seen Star Trek until you've seen Star Trek the animated series. I don't think that highly of it, but I do enjoy it. But I prefer it to Lower Decks, because Lower Decks is a comedy show that almost never makes me laugh. So at least TAS isn't that. And as for like, would I prefer a more serious animated show? I would prefer a comedic animated show that was actually funny. Now, that my problem with Lower Decks isn't like, well, I don't think it should be funny, it should be more serious. No, if they want to be funny, that's great. I think a comedic Star Trek show is a fine idea. I just don't think Lower Decks is funny. I have been watching season 3. We've had 2 episodes so far. I thought the first episode was a little better than the second episode, but neither one of them, I don't think I laughed once during either episode. The first episode did at least have one funny idea, which is that the site of Zephram Cochrane's first warp flight launch has been turned into a tacky tourist trap in the 24th century. That is a funny idea. Like the concept of historic Bozeman is a funny idea, but then it just sits there. Like, they don't do anything funny with it. It's a funny concept that they don't have any idea what to do with other than, which is a lot of the gags on Lower Decks, to be honest. It's like somebody came up with what could have potentially been a funny concept, and then they just kind of toss it out there, and they're like, there you go. What do you think? There's no escalation. There's no exploration of the concept. It's just, or at least there's no funny exploration of the concept. So that's my major problem with Lower Decks. It just, like, I watched the most recent episode of She-Hulk made me that one episode of She-Hulk made me laugh more times than probably every episode of Lower Decks combined ever has. So that's, would I prefer a more serious? I would prefer an animated show that dramatic or comedic was successful at what it was trying to do. So no, I'm watching it, but I'm not. It's just kind of something to have on. Like, I'm not attached to it at all. I'm not invested in it remotely. It is what it is.